Let's continue our exploration on controllers. The most important thing you should remember is that, unlike many other frameworks and systems, in Magento's MVC approach, it's not the responsibility of the controller to set variables for the view. Controllers set some values on models and then tell the system its layout loading and rendering time by calling loadLayout and renderLayout methods, like this. This is happening everywhere in Magento, and I'll demonstrate what is the end result of those two method calls. We got the whole website rendered. But how? What's going on? Let's start with explaining what layout actually is in Magento, because we have here loadLayout and renderLayout methods, and we've mentioned layouts a couple of times until now. Before the page is rendered, Magento loads all configured layout files, which can be found in App, Design, Frontend. Then we have package folders. I'll go to base without any explanation now, we cover it in the next chapter, and then I'll go to default theme and layout folder. Each layout XML file here represents a layout update by specific module. For example, page module defines a layout update file, page XML. Customer module has its own layout update file, and so on. As you might expect, modules define layout updates in their config XML file. I'll go to page module to open config XML file and search for updates. And here is the layout update definition. Don't worry about syntax right now, it's important to understand how those layout XML files on the front end are connected with modules from the backend. Now let's see what we have in page XML, for example. The root element of any XML file is layout. First level children elements of the layout node are called layout handles. It's vital to remember, so once again, layout handle. So we have default, print, page empty, page 1 column, page 2 columns left, page 2 columns right, page 3 columns. These are all layout handles from page XML file. Customer, on the other hand, has its own layout handles. We see default again, customer logged in, customer logged out, and so on. So every layout file has layout handles, and each layout handle has some XML nodes underneath, but we'll dig into them in the next lesson. Now when you call this method loadLayout in your controller action, like I did in sayHello, the system will do a couple of things. First, it will instantiate layout and layout updates models, which can be found under Mage core module, and based on request, apply a couple of layout handles to layout update instance. That's kind of background information. I know this doesn't mean absolutely nothing to you at this point, but I'm sure that after investigating and reviewing this lesson a couple of times, you'll find this info very useful. For now, let's see it in action. Right below loadLayout method, I'll do a printer on this, getLayout, getUpdate, and getHandles. I'll put a die immediately after to stop rendering. Basically what I'm trying to do is to see all layout handles for this page. And here it is. Magento generated layout handles that will be considered for this particular request. Default has global scope, and it's applied for all pages. Store default handle is generated because we are currently on the default store. Theme frontend default is here because we are using default theme under default package. Again, more discussions on packages and themes in the following chapter. Next one, Tats plus demo index sayHello is important one. This is so-called action layout handle. Magento loads this in the format of module, controller, action. So this matches to URL we are currently on. And finally, we have customer logged out because we are not logged in obviously, but once you log in and test again, you'll see customer logged in handle. So, why this all matters? Well, in every single request, while loading layout, the system will go through layout folder inspect all files there, trying to find layout handles from the array we saw, and merge all nodes that belong to match layout handles into one big layout tree. So, in the case of page XML, when system scans it for this particular request, everything under default layout will go into merged layout tree. It will ignore all nodes under print, because print is not in the generated handles array, which means nothing related to print is planned for this particular request. But if you switch your website to print version, print handle will be evaluated, of course. And if we go down, we'll see that nothing more will be added to layout tree, simply because the rest of the handles don't match current request. The system will evaluate all other layout files and see what else should be added to the layout tree, and if you experiment with this, you'll definitely find some matches. I'll show you on customer XML example. You see, on the very top is again default handle, and it will be used. Then we have customer logged out, which will be also used because we saw that handle in the array. That's all. Nothing more will be merged into that layout tree. What's cool is that we can actually demonstrate this. I'll delete this line and add another one. Because we'll get XML, I want to make sure the header is set to text XML, like this. And here it is, giant layout XML tree that provides detailed instructions to the application on how to build a page, what templates to build it with, and what blocks are related to that templates. And if you take a closer look, you'll notice that it starts with layout updates from page XML file. It's important, it always starts with that file. So at this point, proper layout is loaded and the system waits for an instruction to kick off the rendering process. And that's why we call this renderLayout method. We're actually telling the system to go through the merged layout tree, instantiate all blocks found there, link them to templates, and start rendering. So the system definitely finds meaningful information in that layout tree and in return gives us this beautiful page. It's really interesting topic in Magento, and I promise you'll love it when we continue with this in the last chapter. I'll cover what layout syntax means and how it serves as a glue between blocks and templates. But before that, because we are still in controllers chapter, I want to quickly cover how can you rewrite core controllers in your modules, because there's one big difference from rewriting core models, helpers and blocks we have already discussed. We have cool stuff in the queue, so get ready!